At some point, you're going to need to adjust your brakes or your gears. And all it often takes is just a twiddle of a barrel adjuster. But what if I told you that each of these seemingly harmless adjusters is a ticking time bomb just waiting to mess up your day? If left too long, a seized barrel adjuster can ruin your frame or your component permanently. But here's the kicker. The profit in producing new bikes is very slim. So it shouldn't come as any surprise that the manufacturers don't grease them. And there's Buckley's chance the mechanic who did the final assembly of your bike even thought about it. Welcome to stage 10 of Tour de Bike 2024, where I'm going to show you multiple ways to make sure you don't become a victim of this heinous wrongdoing. The best part is we're not even going to take the cables off, so it makes these jobs quick and simple to do. So buckle your toe straps, let's get straight into it right now. We're going to start with the rear gears this time. Shift the gears right up to the largest sprocket, and then you'll just want to stop pedaling the cranks, and we don't want to move the wheel or the cranks again until we finish working with the adjusters on the rear derailleur and the one at the front of the bike. Release the gears all the way down, and if you counted the clicks and it didn't sound like there was enough or you're not quite sure, put a little tension on the cable and then click down again just to make sure. This is going to give you some slack so you can get the adjusters in and out. You can see how much slack there is. This is going to be plenty. If you don't think you've got enough and the rear bit of outer casing goes into a frame fitting on the back of the frame, then you can just pull this out of here as well, and that will give you a bit more slack. Unscrew the whole adjuster, including the spring and the holder that allows you to turn it in and out. Get your grease gun, and if you haven't got one of those, you can just use the nozzle from a can of GT85 or something like that with a bit of grease on it, and just get that down into the threads of the rear derailleur. Push the adjuster and the spring back into its holder, and then push it down on the rear derailleur and start to screw it in. Because it's spring loaded, this is the best way to do it, and it stops it just being so fiddly. Make sure you don't get it skew-if. It should just screw in nice and easily. Screw it in all the way, because we might need all the space we can get to get the adjuster out at the front of the bike. Go up to the front of the bike and unscrew the adjuster for the rear gear cable all the way out of the fitting. Sometimes it just helps to take the outer casing out of the adjuster. That's the way I normally do it because it makes it much easier. Once you've got it out all the way, just get your grease gun or your greasy twiddle stick and just get some grease down into the threads of the frame boss. And then you just want to screw the adjuster all the way back in. Again, because this is spring loaded, you might need to put a little bit of pressure on it just to get it started. Reseat the housing into the adjuster. Make sure the outer cable at the back of the bike is back in the frame stop if you removed it earlier. And then you just want to pedal the cranks until the chain moves down to the smallest sprocket. Let's take a look at the front one now. Shift the front lever so the chain goes up into the big chain wheel, and you just want to stop pedaling it like we did with the rear. Again, you don't want to move the cranks or the back wheel until we've finished greasing the front adjuster. Release the gears with the shifter like you were shifting into the inner ring. Unscrew the front adjuster. We're not going to screw this out all the way and use a grease gun because there probably isn't going to be enough cable. If you can't get the adjuster to screw out far enough to grease it, you want to go back to the front derailleur and screw in the lower limit screw as far as you can, but be careful because some of these modern derailleurs, the screw can go all the way through and just fall out the back, and that's just going to cause a problem for later on. This will give you more slack on the inner cable. Counting the amount of revolutions you screw it in would be best practice. Go back to the adjuster and screw it out as far as you can without removing it. And if it has a spring like this one, you just want to pull that out of the way and then get some grease on the threads. And then you just want to screw the adjuster all the way back in. Reseat the housing into the adjuster, and then you can just pedal the cranks and it should drop down to the inner ring. Obviously, if you adjusted the lower limit screw earlier, that's not going to happen. So you just want to undo the screw as many revolutions as you tightened it up. This will put it back into the same setting it was in before we started. Had any aha moments? Drop them in the comments below. Okay, now the gears are done, let's get on with the brakes. Let's start with the front one. I'm just going to undo the pinch bolt and then unscrew the adjuster as far as I can without removing it. Hold the cap up that you use to unscrew the adjuster, and then either using a grease gun or your little twiddle stick with some grease on it, get some grease on the threads. Screw the adjuster all the way back in, and then you just want to nip the cable up with the pinch bolt. Time for the rear brake, and I'm just going to show you a different procedure so you can see there's more than one way to skin a cat. I'm just going to move this little rubber boot out of the way, and because the adjuster's screwed all the way in, we can just get a bit of grease on this exposed thread. Screw the adjuster out nearly all the way so it drags the grease into the threads of the brake caliper. Once you've done that, screw it all the way back in. Refit the rubber boot and we're done. If you've got inline cable adjusters, it's a good idea to grease those as well. It just makes them easier to use in the future. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do that now. It helps the channel and allows me to keep bringing you useful information. Next up is stage 11 of Tour de Bike 2024. In this stage, we'll be returning to the brake area and I'll show you 2 little known tricks that stop disc brakes from squealing. You definitely don't want to miss out on this one. I look forward to seeing you there.